listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball as we take you around the conference for all the latest in Big Sky hoops. Now, here's your host, Scott Gerard.
Welcome on in. It's another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Gerard. Hey, we're getting to the halfway point of the Big Sky basketball season, so we just have a little over a month to go before everybody in the league packs up their bags and heads on the road to Reno. Great lineup of guests today. We'll break down all the league races, including Portland State women's coach Lynn Kennedy, also Montana State head men's coach Brian Fish, and then we'll wrap things up with Skyline Sports' Colter Nuanez. Let's start this week with women's basketball. No team hotter in Big Sky women's hoops right now than Northern Colorado. Bears are 8-0 in league play, 16-3 on the season after getting impressive wins over Idaho State and Weber State. North Dakota also getting a sweep of Weber State, Idaho State, although it was a little tougher for the Fighting Hawks. It was a 5-point game for UND against Weber, and it took overtime against Idaho State. But look at the Fighting Hawks, 7-1 off to their best ever start in league play. Montana State getting a sweep of this weekend's action with a big win over Sacramento State and a narrow victory over Portland State. Then Sac State getting its first ever win in Missoula as the Hornets down the Lady Grizz on Robin Selvig Day. Montana going winless this past weekend. Then down south, Northern Arizona earned a win over Eastern Washington before falling to Idaho on Saturday as Michaela Ferens dropped over 40 points on the Lumberjacks, setting a Sky Dome win. Idaho getting a clean sweep of NAU and Southern Utah, while Eastern getting a narrow win over Southern Utah on Saturday. Again, Northern Colorado, your leader right now at 8-0, and travel partner North Dakota just a game back. Those two teams will play in early February, but until then, they continue to roll on. Another team that continues to roll on is Portland State. A season ago, the Vikings picked up just 2 league wins. This year, they've got 4. They're 10-9 overall, and Coach Lynn Kennedy joins us now. Coach, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure and honor. Your second season there on the Park Blocks, but you're already making a big change there in Portland. Describe the difference between this year's team and last year's squad.
Well, I think, starting last year, coming into the program, we only had 5 players at the time, and I think, just changing the culture, changing the mindset that we had coming in. Recruiting was the big part of that, the start of the process. We were a very young team last year. We started almost all freshmen last year. So we had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and I think that helped us going into this year. We had some transfers that were sitting out, and that provided us a little bit more experience this year. We're still very young. We start all sophomores, but the fact that we provided that, we actually have that, experience from last year, and then the new players coming in. Probably early on it was more chemistry, finding consistency, but I think as the season goes on, that progression is becoming stronger. We're finding tough games on the road so far, playing those top 3 teams in the league early on the road, but I think that's helped us. We had a great preseason schedule, and I think that's helped us in our progression up the standings in the Big Sky Conference.
I know Montana may be a bit down this year, but what's it like for your girls to go there and get a Big Sky, win over a Big Sky traditional power over the Lady Grizz?
Yeah, I mean, Montana's Montana, regardless of the record. They came out, they play hard. I think for us it was more about getting into the game and seeing that we can compete against the top teams in the conference now, and that's something that we've been talking about all year. And for us, from where we've come last year, I think that's the main thing for this year, that we can compete, we can win on the road. And so getting that win definitely helped us as far as giving the confidence, especially going to Saturday's game that gets us such a great team, Montana State.
You mentioned recruiting, and I know that's the lifeblood of any athletic program, and it seems like that is really picked up over the last couple of years. What have you been able to do there at Portland State to grab the attention of potential recruits?
Well, I think just selling the program, who we are and where we want to be in the conference. I think that, definitely our facility upgrade. We're under construction. The new arena is being built. You can see it every day. I think that's definitely helped. And recruiting the student athletes that we want here at Portland State. We want to change who we are, especially with the players we have coming in. We want the best talent, but also, we want student athletes. Our GPA has increased. Our talent level has increased. Our athleticism increased. And our height has increased. So, we've kind of touched all those as far as we look at the top teams in the Big Sky Conference, and that's where we want to be. And so we kind of took Northern Colorado, North Dakota, Montana State, Montana, Eastern Washington, Idaho, all those teams that kind of said, what do we want to be as far as our team, and how do we compete against those teams? And that's kind of where we started. And we're still young. We still have consistency issues, especially on the road, just trying to figure out, against Montana State, there was 3 runs that got us, and we can't have those on the road, especially as a young team. So I think we're still learning, but I love our progression. I love how hard we work, and I love seeing this team come together.
Ashley Bolston, Sydney Riley, both making big contributions for your teams this year. Describe what they bring to your squad, both on and off the court.
Yeah, I think, we're looking at recruits. Those 2 transfers stood out to us as far as getting them on campus, letting them see who we were. And it was just a perfect fit. I think that Ashley's one of those players that she's hard to guard, a 6'2" guard that can bring up the ball. She can play point guard for us. She can also play kind of a power forward as well. So, if smaller players are on her, we try to post her up. If bigger players are on her, we let her attack the basket. She can knock down threes. She can attack. And so offensively, she provides, something that you don't see a lot of times, at high levels. So, and off the court, we focused academically for her coming in. Academics wasn't the priority, and I think that's really changed for her. She's really in the study table and making sure that her grades are number one priority, and you can see the difference in the classroom. Sydney Riley came to us from Santa Clara, and she got some time at Santa Clara, but just wasn't the right fit, and they were going through some coaching changes, and I felt like, she was somebody that could come in and provide a scoring spark for us when she was eligible, and she's done that for us. She's someone that, a really good shooter, but she can also attack the basket, and she's really good in the open court. Defensively, she's got a lot better this year, and she's a top-level student, too. So, she was top scorer in the state of Washington coming out of high school, so she definitely can score, and I think offensively for us, they definitely provide what we want to get in our offensive sets, and they definitely made an impact on us this year.
You've shown an ability to get wins this year against teams that, even with a variety of different styles. Now, you host Sacramento State on Saturday. What's the key when you play a team like that?
Well, they're a tough team, and I think that, with their style of play, you've got to be ready. One of the issues that we've had this year is taking care of the ball, so that's what we've been talking about for the last 2 months, really, in preparation for Sac State. There was a lot of ups and downs in the game at Sacramento. We were fortunate enough to win that game, but it could have gone either way at the end of the game. So we know that we got to be better. We've got to take care of the ball. We've got to be attacking in our offensive sets. That's the style of play that we want to play. So typically the Sacramento games the last 2 years have been up-tempo, a lot of scoring. We want to play better defense. There hasn't been a lot of defense, but we want to play better defense. And I think rebounding, too, on both sides is probably a key in that game. So the things that we were working on, last couple months are the same things that we're working on this week in preparation for them. But we know they're a good team. They can hit shots. And they're actually, I think, almost better on the road this year than they are at home. So I think it's going to be a tough battle here Saturday.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Thanks for carving out a few moments for us. We look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you. Anytime.
You got it. Portland State head coach Lynn Kennedy here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Take a short break, come back, and we'll chat with Montana State men's coach Brian Fish. It's all straight ahead. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Division I Conference Championship Basketball returns to the biggest little city as the Big Sky Conference invades the Reno Event Center March 6th through the 11th. Don't miss your chance to see the next bracket-busting Cinderella story team take the court as men's and women's teams from all Big Sky schools battle it out for a spot in the NCAA tournament. Tickets are available now at the Silver Legacy box office or Ticketmaster.com. Big Sky Conference Championship Basketball live at the Reno Event Center March 6th through the 11th. Don't miss it.
You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Welcome back. You're listening to segment number 2 here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Gerard. Let's take a look at last week's men's basketball results around the conference. Montana had a rough go of it, dropping 2 games on the road to Portland State and Sacramento State. Weber State suffered its first loss of the season at North Dakota on Thursday before bouncing back against Northern Colorado on Saturday. Fighting Hawks also picked up a home win over Idaho State, who topped UNC previously. and Idaho and Eastern Washington each picked up 2 home wins over Southern Utah and Northern Arizona. Montana State had a great week on the road last week with wins at Sac State and at Portland State. And here to break it down for us, Bobcat head coach Brian Fish. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, always good to catch up with you, especially after a couple of big wins. Your team hadn't had a lot of success on the road, and then all of a sudden you pick up a couple big ones. What was it? What clicked with your guys last week?
Well, not to make excuses, but I think we're the 312th youngest team in the country, and we play a young team. I think freshmen, 2 sophomores in the backcourt, a lot of new guys. I think the road is an exposure of anytime you have weaknesses. I think your home crowd can get you through some games even when you don't play well. And I think there's a process you have to go through to learn how to win on the road. And we kind of close those gaps on the process, and we're fortunate enough to get 2 wins. But so many people nowadays aren't willing to go through the process. They want it right away, and it's just not that easy. And then with 2 really good teams like Portland State and Sac State, we played well and got a little lucky.
So as a coach, I got to imagine that's fulfilling to see that maturity level of your team rise to the point where they can go out on the road and, they're growing up right before your eyes to the point where they can win these games.
Well, I thought I've been kind of preaching for the last 30 days. I thought our team made great advancement during Christmas break, which you have to. You kind of become a pro team. All you do is eat and play basketball, and you don't have school and study hall, and you don't have academic meetings. And if you don't make that advancement during that time, you start to pay a price. And I thought we made advancement, and I thought at some point this would happen and we could win. But sports is a reality deal. You get what you deserve, and I didn't know if we could win. I didn't know if we would, but I liked how we were progressing in practice.
Really can't mention the Bobcats without bringing up Tyler Hall. He was your freshman of the year last year, averaging 23 points for you. Talk about his progression from year 1 to year 2, and is he making the strides that he needs to for you and your program?
Well, people may or may not understand this, but last year Tyler Hall played next to a senior point guard, Marcus Hall, and Marcus fought all the sharks for him. Team pressed, Marcus beat the press by himself. If it got late, Marcus created the opportunities out of double teams, and all Tyler had to do was shoot and make baskets and kind of play a submissive role next to Marcus. This year it's a completely different role, and we got a freshman point guard, so he leans on Tyler a little bit. Tyler's got to go and handle against the press. Tyler's gotten to the line, shot more free throws already this year than he did all of last year. He has to get to the line. He has to play. He has to rebound. He had his second double-double the other night in points and rebounds. And to do those things and make that advance, I'm certainly very proud of him. But again, I think he's only about halfway as his talent to where he can go, because I think the kid's very, very talented.
Wow, no doubt. Besides Tyler Hall, getting good performances from other players, Harold Fry's played well, Zach Green's played well. Talk a little bit about some of the other supporting members of this team.
Well, Harold, we call him Harry. Harry's really made significant advancement in a position that if you're not good at, you don't have a chance. And we lost a really, really, really good player, Marcus Colbert, last year, and really we're struggling with that. And Harry came in and has fought it, and now is starting to get comfortable with what you want. It goes back a long time ago when I went back to work at Creighton and went and watched practice one day, and Coach Altman said, "What do you think?" And I said, "We'll struggle." And he said, "No, we won't." I said, "Why?" And he said, "We've got a 3-year starter at the point guard position. I'll be darned if we didn't win 25 games. The next year we had the more talent, but we were young at point guard and we struggled." And it's something I heard, but I didn't listen when he said it, and I learned it firsthand this year. But now, as Harry gets more confidence, we're going to be staring at a starter for the next 3 or 4 years in our program, and that's going to be an enjoyable time.
Much like a football coach sleeps a little bit better at night when he's got a quarterback that's been around the program for a while. I got to imagine the same for a basketball coach with a point guard, correct?
It's so true. It's said so easily, but it's not understood until you live it. You know, you mentioned other guys. Benson has made advancements inside. Our young guys have. Devontae Kleins has been kind of a hidden warrior. Really like bringing Quentin Everett off the bench. Strengthened us. We got Joe Vazula back from his deal. We're starting to round into shape after not having quite a few guys during a month, and now we're getting them back. So hopefully we can make advancements.
Coach, you've been a big supporter of the neutral site conference tournament. What were your impressions of Reno last year?
Well, first of all, I think our conference office did an incredible job of putting on something they had never done before. I think they went in depth and talked to other conferences. I thought Reno did a fantastic job of wanting to host it. The convenience of the hotels to the arena was very nice. Having all the teams there and seeing them, the restaurants and the hotels were so easy. They worked out a bus service so we could get to and from a neutral site. It's a fantastic thing that's really going to grow. The model that I used in the meeting was I was in the Missouri Valley when they moved to St. Louis and saw that thing grow. I think ours has an opportunity to grow because of a neutral site, because of a good city like Reno. The job our conference did. It was fantastic, and obviously I think you can tell in my voice how excited I am about it and the chance to grow, and just think it was the perfect move. And I think it will lead to our teams having tournament success in the NCAA tournament because it is a sterile environment just like the NCAA tournament is, and that'll lead to us starting to win some games as we move forward in the tournament.
This year, top 5 seeds receive first-round buys in the conference tournament. Is that a goal of yours that you set for this team this year to get that bye, to be able to maybe have a day off when the tournament kicks off?
I'm just trying to have a good practice today with a young team. Hey, I may have a guy lose his girlfriend today. I may have, something wrong and things like that. I'm so focused on today's practice that I'd have to even think, what is it, 6-7 weeks away? I can't even think about it. And the other thing is the way our league works, it just seems like every day is Tuesday because you play Thursday, Saturday, Sunday's your day off, then you're back into it. Today's a big media day, and you just keep kind of rolling. It becomes such routine that you really don't think about it. I'm not trying to avoid your question. I'd love to have a bye, but at the same time, when you're young, you're more worried about how you're playing. If we played well and we're playing good, 4 games in 5 days is fine. If we're playing well and have to play 3 games in 3, that's fine too. Whatever happens, I just want to be playing well.
I love it, Coach. All right, so let's shorten our sights here a little bit. Let's not go long term. Let's go short term. You got Idaho and Eastern Washington coming to town this week. What are your keys to try to get a couple wins this weekend?
Well, I think Idaho's the best defensive team in the league. They do a great job of gumming up the lane and attacking the ball handler and doing some things. We had a barn burner there that kind of, went overtime. We had a lead, gave up a shot in regulation and fouled. Victor Sanders made 3 free throws, then got beat in on a tip-in in overtime. I think it was a come-to-Jesus time for our team to look at film, and you can't duplicate those things. And I think our young team learned from that. And then Eastern Washington, I think Wiley's come in and has been exactly what the doctors ordered for Eastern Washington. They do such a great job. So I could have picked a couple other teams to be playing right now than these two because they're really, really good. And we're going to have to play our butts off Thursday to have a chance and then duplicate it again on Saturday afternoon.
Well, Coach, instead of telling you have a good rest of the season, I'll just say have a good practice today, and we'll catch up with you again here very soon.
Unlike my team, you're listening. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. Thanks, Coach. That's the head coach of Montana State, Brian Fish, here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Before we take a break, let's take a look at the week ahead in the Big Sky Conference men's schedule, as this week's might be a little strange for fans of the conference. Weber State and Idaho State are going to resume that previously suspended game on Wednesday before playing their regular scheduled game in Ogden coming up on Friday. So kind of a back-to-back between those two teams. Big matchup coming to Missoula, Montana on Thursday as Eastern Washington travels to take on Montana. North Dakota and Northern Colorado make the road swing to Southern Utah and Northern Colorado, while Sac State hosts rival Portland State coming up on Saturday. Remember, you can catch every Big Sky Conference basketball game live on WatchBigSky.com on the Big Sky Conference mobile app. We'll take a break, come back with Skyline Sports' Colter Nuanez. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
What makes a Big Sky champion? Is it toughness? Is it competitiveness? Is it community? Is it achievement? Or is it sportsmanship? All these attributes live in the heart of a Big Sky champion. We're the Big Sky Conference.
This week in Big Sky Basketball.
All right, final segment of this edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Good slate of games coming up this weekend in Big Sky women's basketball. Montana and Montana State travel to take on Idaho and Eastern Washington. Then Northern Colorado and North Dakota host Southern Utah and Northern Arizona. We got a pair of rivalry games on Saturday. Portland State hosts Sacramento State, and Idaho State will host Weber State. Hey, get to WatchBigSky.com for all things Big Sky Conference men's and women's basketball. Go there online or connect via the Big Sky Conference app, WatchBigSky.com, the exclusive home of the Big Sky Conference Women's Basketball Championship. And remember, you just heard Coach Brian Fish talk about all the festivities in Reno, the hotel accommodations, easy airfare into Reno, as well as great restaurants, all right there within walking distance of the arena where you can watch all the games. So if any information you need about getting and booking your tickets to be able to watch your team play in the Big Sky Conference Tournament, go to roadtoreno.com. All right, time to welcome in Skyline Sports' Colter Nuanez. Colter, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. I got to say, one plug on Reno. I had one of the best times I've ever had last year, and that was with working 12 hours a day. So if you like basketball, you guys should go check it out.
No doubt. RoadToReno.com. Well, give me your thoughts, because this conference for so long has always been about, rewarding the teams that had won the regular season conference tournament, or regular season, I guess I should say, and then they go to a neutral site, which is the direction this conference should go. But, there's some people that, kind of get stuck in their ways. What was your thoughts on the first year of the tournament in Reno?
Well, just from a social side of things and just from an event side of things, I thought it was fantastic. I thought the league did a great job of facilitating. I thought that, Reno's a really fun place because you get a little bit of the Vegas free-for-all where you can stay up all night if you want to, you can gamble, all that sort of thing, but it's also a lot cheaper than Vegas, so that makes it a little more fun too. So that part was all great, but also just from a basketball standpoint, I cut my teeth covering the Montana schools, and probably the University of Montana is the school I've covered the longest. And my first beat in college, both for the student newspaper and then for the Missoulian, was the women's basketball team, the Lady Grizz. And they had so much success by being able to host and by being able to punch the ticket to the big dance by playing on their home court. But you saw it with both the Lady Grizz as well as the men Grizz, and you've seen it in recent years with Weber State as well. I think if you host the tournament, you're going to have really good fan support. You're going to play in front of your home crowd. That's all a great reward. But you're not necessarily ready for the NCAA tournament when you do that. I saw some overmatched Lady Grizz teams win the Big Sky Championship on their home court because the atmosphere in Missoula is so tremendous, but that doesn't necessarily help the team out. I think when you're playing on a neutral site court, you're going to get the best team. You saw last year Weber State, they were definitively the best team, but they got pushed down to the wire by Portland State in the quarterfinals, taken to overtime by North Dakota in the semifinals, and then they play a three-point game with Montana in the championship, and all of a sudden they don't have this home court advantage to play off of when they're going to the tournament, and they're ready to roll right away, and they give Xavier a good game despite being a 15 seed. So I think that's what you want. You don't necessarily want riding the home court momentum and then going and playing Syracuse and losing by 40 like the Grizz did a few years back. So I think the league's made a good decision. People just need to latch on and buy into it.
All right, so let's talk about some games. First off, let's go on the women's side. Idaho's Michaela Ferenz had a highlight performance in Flagstaff, scoring 40-plus points in that win over NAU. Vandals, are they a team that are putting things together for a chance to repeat in Reno, in your mind?
Well, it's been interesting because of the unbalanced schedule in the league. It's hard to tell where everybody's at, but I think that Idaho now has gotten rolling a little bit. This is a huge weekend, like you just mentioned, Scott, with the Idaho and Eastern Washington playing the Montana schools. It's huge on both sides of the token for women's and men's. But I think that Idaho, they're the team that represented the Big Sky in the NCAA tournament a year ago. They lost some key players from that squad. I thought Christina Salvatore was one of the most underrated players in the Big Sky a year ago. Allie Ford, a really huge contributor for them a year ago as well. But it seems like they're starting to find their leadership roles a little bit. I mean, they're expecting a ton out of Ferenz as a sophomore, but she's a tremendously talented player, and you saw that with that 41-point performance. I think she's scoring more than 21 a game in conference play. So I think that they're coming around. And just because John Newley has proven he can coach in all aspects, regular season, postseason, everything, I think that they will be a threat at the end of the day.
Northern Colorado, North Dakota, Montana State, top 3 in the standings. Is one of your tournament winners going to come from that 3, or do you think there's somebody else that can challenge and make that run?
Well, I think Eastern Washington will be right there as well. I think Idaho can sneak into the mix. Idaho State is a tough matchup for everybody because of just the physicality they can play with. And that's, again, another reason why this neutral site tournament is so great, is because teams can continue to get better as they go towards this tournament. And then whoever's playing the best in March, that's what it comes down to. But to answer your question, although Montana State is sitting there third behind North Dakota and Northern Colorado, I'd actually say Montana State right now is second just because of the schedule that they've played. Their first 10 is much harder than their last 8. So if they can figure out a way to take care of business on the road this weekend, or at least get a split, I think they have to be thrilled with being 7-3 or 8-2 with the schedule they've already played. Northern Colorado, though, has been right there, and they're just executing everything so well. I mean, in Cami Etheridge's third year, they're really running that motion offense proficiently. I think that they really have bought into what she wants out of the girls. I'm actually talking to her a little later this afternoon, so that'll be fun to catch up with her. But I think that it's a really deep league. I think you really have 6 teams on the women's side that can win it. But I think that Northern Colorado, Montana State are probably in the best position right now, 8 games in.
All right, let's turn the page. Go to the men's side of the conference. Crazy week last week in the conference. Seems like the battle for the top 5 slots is going to be a tough one. Jacob Wiley picked up his second straight Big Sky Player of the Week nod this week. What's made him so special this year for Eastern Washington?
Well, I think it's a culmination of things. I think that this has been a guard-oriented league for a long time, but if you had a premier big man, it really puts you over the top. And Joel Ballenboy at Weber State, Martin Bruning at Montana, Venky Joyce at Eastern Washington, Cameron Forte at Portland State, all 4 of those guys were elite big guys in the league last year, and it really gave their teams a boost in the race. And those guys all leave, and everybody thinks, okay, it's going to be the most guard-oriented it's ever been. You have 6 guards on the preseason all-league team. Well, Eastern Washington sneakily goes and gets Jacob Wiley as a graduate transfer from Lewis and Clark State. And before anybody knows it, I think he's definitively the best big guy in the league. And I think that the reason he's been able to have so much success is they're putting him in a position to succeed. They run so much motion, they run so much isolation that they get him mismatches across the board. And when he gets a mismatch, he's so much more athletic than everybody else that he really can get himself easy shot after easy shot. So I think he's shooting about 70% in league play right now, just the model of efficiency, and he's been a huge contributor. So I think he is by far the front runner for newcomer of the year in the league, but he's actually sneaking his way into the MVP race as well. He's been huge for them.
How much of a statement did North Dakota make with that win over Weber State?
I think North Dakota proved that they're the real deal. I mean, they are in this in the title hunt for sure. I think that win does so much for them as far as a confidence standpoint and just solidifying them in the standings here. They're similar to the Montana State women in the schedule that they've played. To be 6-2 with the teams that they've already had in their rear view, that's pretty darn good. I think we've talked for a couple weeks now about Weber State, Montana being kind of the front runners here, but Montana has a lot of stuff to figure out. They have some internal stuff going on. They need to figure out their rotation. Walter Wright was an All-Big Sky player a year ago, and now he's not really contributing as much as they maybe have thought. Now that they're bringing him off the bench, him and Ahmad Rory have had a hard time meshing. So I think North Dakota, with the emergence of Gino Crandall, coupled with just the steady play of Quentin Hooker and the depth that they have, they thrust themselves right in the middle of that race. And they're right there with Montana and Eastern Washington and Weber State for the top 4 teams.
Well, Coulter, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining us, and let's do it again here soon.
Hey, sounds good. Call anytime.
You got it. Coulter Nuanez from Skyline Sports. Make sure to check out SkylineSportsMT.com or you can follow them on Twitter at Skyline Sports MT. All right, get to the website, roadtoreno.com. That's roadtoreno.com. You can get your game tickets. You can book your hotel accommodations all on one easy site, roadtoreno.com. That does it for us. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Big Sky Basketball. For Austin Horton, I'm Scott Gerard. Enjoy the games this week. We'll be back with you next week for another edition of This Week in Big Sky Hoops.